Marcel Cerdan came into the world at 9 p.m. on a July night in 1916 in a dusty corner of Sidi Bel Abbes, Algeria, a place the locals fondly called Little Paris. The streets weren't paved with dreams, but they were alive with music, food, and the quiet strength of people just trying to make it through the day. He was the fourth boy in a house that knew the meaning of hard work. His father, Antonio, worked with his hands, sunburned, rough, always tired. His mother, Asuncion, held the family together with a look in her eyes that told you she'd seen harder days and made it through all of them. They were both of Spanish blood, pied noirs, people who never fully belonged to one land or the other. And yet, they made Algeria their home and poured everything they had into raising their children. Marcelin wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. He had a quiet energy about him, something people noticed but couldn't quite explain. As a boy, he moved like he was already training for something bigger, something waiting out there beyond the broken walls and sun-bleached doors of his neighborhood. He didn't have much, none of them did, but he had fists that felt like they were made for more than just holding on. The world around him was hard, but there was something soft and strong in him, a storm with a calm center. No one knew it then, but the little boy born on that quiet night in Algeria would one day carry the heart of a fighter. He didn't grow up chasing fame or applause. He grew up fighting for space, for respect, for a way out. But more than anything, he fought for himself, for the boy who learned early that the world doesn't hand you anything unless you go out there and take it. And that's exactly what he would do. Marcel Cerdan wasn't the kind of man who waited for the perfect moment. He made his own. On November 4th, 1934, in a small ring under the Moroccan sky in Meknes, he stepped into his very first professional fight. No big crowd, no flashing lights, just a young man with fire in his chest and something to prove. He went 6 rounds with Marcel Bucchianeri and walked away with his first win. It was earned. From that night on, Cerdan didn't slow down. He fought like he was chasing something invisible. 47 fights in a row, and not one man could stop him. From the hot streets of Algeria to the packed halls of Morocco, then deeper into the heart of France, his name started to move through whispers. People didn't just talk about his punches. They talked about the way he carried himself. Quiet, focused, dangerous. But every fire meets a storm. On January 4th, 1939, in London, he lost for the first time, disqualified in the 5th round against Harry Craster. It wasn't the loss that cut deep. It was how it happened. A moment, a call, and it was over. He didn't argue. He just took it, not with pride, but with the kind of silence that only men who've tasted defeat can understand. Most men crumble after a fall like that. Cerdan didn't. He stood back up, brushed off the dust, and went straight into 5 more fights, and won them all. Then came Milan. 15 rounds against Saviello Turiello for the European welterweight title. The air in the ring that night was thick, like something big was about to shift. Cerdan fought with all the weight of where he came from, the heat of Algeria, the echo of street fights, the hunger that never really left his bones. And he won. He didn't just win title. He opened a door. Back then, a European belt was your ticket to the world stage, a sign that maybe, just maybe, you were ready for more. Cerdan didn't celebrate loudly. He never did. He just looked ahead, toward the next fight, the next city, the next name. Because for him, this wasn't just about belts or records. It was about a boy from Little Paris who chose to fight his way forward, 1 round at a time. Marcel Cerdan had known what it felt like to win, over and over again. By the time he stepped into the ring with Victor Button in 1942, he had stacked up 23 straight wins. But sometimes, a fighter's biggest enemy isn't the man in front of him. It's the split-second decisions, the ones that get you disqualified, even when your fists are doing all the right talking. That night in Algiers, Cerdan was disqualified for the 2nd time in his career. Another stain on the record, another bitter taste in the mouth. But it wasn't the end. He waited 3 long years, then met Button again in 1945, and this time, he didn't leave it to the judges. Cerdan knocked him out cold in the 3rd round. That was how he liked to answer his past, directly, with power. But even before that rematch, Cerdan kept moving. His next fight, after Button, he put everything on the line. His title, against Jose Ferrer. No drama, no waiting. Just 1 round, 1 knockout, and it was done. the kind of win that made people blink. He kept stacking victories. 1, 2, 3, 4. It grew into 37 wins. In between the fights, the gloves, and the roars of the crowd, the world was at war. Cerdan wasn't the kind of man to sit back. In 1944, he joined the American Allies, and even there, in the middle of chaos, he kept fighting. He won the Inter-Allied Championship, proving that even on the battlefield, he could still hold his ground. Then came another step up, the middleweight division. He didn't ease into it. He stormed in, knocked out Saint-Douf in 3 rounds for the French title, then took the European title with just 1 round against Léon Fouquet. Each fight added more weight to his name, not because of the belts, but because of the way he earned them. But boxing isn't a straight line. In Brussels, he lost to Cyril Delanoit, a tough, gritty Belgian fighter who took him the full 15 rounds and walked away with the win. That loss stung. So Cerdan went back to Belgium, back into Delanoit's backyard, and took his title back the same way. 15 rounds. Every second counted. And this time, Cerdan's hand was the one raised. Then the call came. The one every fighter dreams of. A world title shot. He crossed the ocean to the United States. On September 21st, 1948, under the bright lights of Roosevelt Stadium in Jersey City, he stood face to face with Tony Zale, the world middleweight champion. Zale was no easy man. He was rough, hard as they came. But Cerdan didn't come this far to back down. For 12 rounds, he gave everything. Then, he landed the punch that ended it. Zale went down. The stadium shook. And just like that, the boy from Sidi Bella Bays, the one who had nothing but fists and hunger, became a world champion. Marcel Cerdan had known both the joy of winning and the sting of being stopped. But in 1942, something about the fight in Algiers against Victor Button left a different kind of bruise. It wasn't the punches, it was the call. A disqualification. For the second time in his career, he was forced to take a loss that didn't feel like a fight lost, but a chance taken away. He didn't complain. That wasn't his style. But inside, something burned. 3 years later, in 1945, Cerdan got his answer. He met Button again. No politics, no confusion, just fists. And in the 3rd round, Cerdan dropped him. The past was buried right there on the canvas. Cerdan treated every fight with the same hunger. 2 rounds, another knockout, another quiet nod to the life he was chasing. That winning streak, it grew, 37 wins deep. In the middle of it all, the world was at war. While others ran from it, Cerdan joined. In 1944, he stood alongside American soldiers, wearing the same uniform. He didn't just fight in the ring, he fought as part of something bigger. And while he was there, he did what he always did. He won. The Inter-Allied Championship was his. Back home, he climbed even higher, moving up to the middleweight division. Marcel Cerdan didn't just win titles, he won hearts. After becoming world champion, he was no longer just a fighter from North Africa. In Paris, he became something else, a symbol of courage, a man people whispered about in cafes and sang about in music halls. He was married, a father of 3, with a quiet loyalty to family. But life, as it often does, brought something unexpected. In the summer of 1948, he met Édith Piaf. She was already a star, her voice known across continents. But when they met, something clicked, something deeper than fame. They weren't perfect, but they were drawn to each other in a way that made the world fade. Their love wasn't a secret, but it wasn't loud either. It was made of letters, stolen moments, and long-distance longing. Piaf poured her heart into a song, Hymne à l'amour, and gave it to him. It wasn't just music. It was a message. I see you. I love you. Come back to me. And he tried. But boxing never let go so easily. For his first title defense, Cerdan returned to the United States to face Jake LaMotta in Detroit. In the very first round, he hit the floor. Not from weakness, but from the raw power LaMotta carried. Then his shoulder went dislocated. Still, Marcel kept going. Round after round, one arm useless, the other holding on. After 10 brutal rounds, he couldn't continue. It was the first time he gave up in a fight. Not from fear, but because his body simply gave out. A rematch was signed. He was already preparing. But before he went into camp, he chose love. He booked a flight to New York. Piaf was performing. He missed her. He never made it. The plane went down in the Azores, crashing into the mountains of São Miguel Island. All 48 souls on board died. Among them, Marcel Cerdan. Also lost was the violinist Jeanette Nevu, another quiet star. The next day, Jake LaMotta didn't talk about belts or punches. He said what many already knew. You had to fight him as I did to know what a fine sportsman he was. There was no bitterness, only respect. Marcel Cerdan was laid to rest in Perpignan, in southern France. His record, 110 wins, for losses, 65 knockouts. But numbers don't tell you about the man. They don't show you the boy who fought his way from Algerian streets. They don't speak of love songs, or broken shoulders, or a man boarding a flight because his heart needed to be near hers. He was more than a boxer. He was a man with fire in his fists and softness in his silence. He's remembered today in the International Boxing Hall of Fame, alongside LaMotta and Zale. His story was brought to life in Édith E.T. Marcel, with his own son playing him, and again in the film La Vie en Rose. A sports arena in Levallois-Perret now bears his name, Paletta Sports Marcel Cerdan. But his true legacy isn't just in brick or bronze. It lives in the ring, in a love song, and in the hearts of those who still remember the man who loved, fought, and left too soon. In the end, Marcel Cerdan wasn't just a champion because of the belts he held or the men he beat. He was a champion because of how he lived, with quiet strength, with deep love, with a fighter's heart that never stopped pushing forward, even when the world pushed back. He came from little, gave everything, and left behind more than victories. He left behind a story that still moves people, decades later. Not every fighter becomes a legend, but Marcel Cerdan did. Not because he fought, but because of how he fought, in the ring, in love, and in life.